Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Beyond the Itch live panel. This is the third one that we've done, and you'll get to meet our team. If you haven't already seen the last two, you can go back and watch those on my YouTube channel or my podcast, which it'll be released on soon. And it's nice that we have people who are joining already. Today, you'll get to hear about our Eczema Conquerors team. We have Stephanie, Timothy, and Jennifer, who have all gone through eczema and topical steroid withdrawal. And they've suffered it from it and they've come out on the other end. So I'm just so excited to introduce all of them and have them share about their journey, some of the biggest misconceptions about healing, and what made them stop chasing surface level healing, and how they finally got to the root cause. And so I really hope this is a really helpful chat that will really give you a lot of hope and also help you feel enlightened as well. And at any time, feel free to enter any questions or comments for them in the chat. And remember that this is a reminder for you that you're not alone in this and that we're here with you. So at any time, feel free to put your questions in, and we'd love to help answer them. So Timothy, let's start with you. And I know that you've gone through a lot with your skin. So tell me, what was the hardest thing about believing the wrong things for so long? Especially, and let me preface this, because on our healing journey, a lot of us will originally think that healing goes a certain way, but then it turns out to actually be a different way. So what was the hardest thing about believing the wrong things for so long?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And hello, I'm Timothy. I know I've been on a couple of these already, and I'm part of the Eczema Conquerors team. And I work with Abby and this incredible team. Stephanie and Jen are both fantastic. And honestly, eczema is such a difficult thing to go through physically, but I think there's a huge emotional toll that I also went through, believing the wrong things and just trying so many different things and constantly being let down time and time again. Um, I had spent years believing that eczema was something that I could just fix with creams or diet tweaks or magic supplements. And for a while, those things did work and did give me glimmers of hope, but I just they were never long term, and I had tried so many different things, just diet changes and different kinds of oils, and I just kept thinking that this had to be it, and that feeling of hope that you just discovered finally this is what's been causing your skin to flare and then being let down time and time again is honestly very emotionally exhausting and very discouraging. And I think to go through that for years and years was very, very difficult. It was a bit of a cycle of just trial and error and desperately trying to find something that works and then being let down, being exhausted, and then discovering a new thing. And I had gone the steroid route initially. I had used steroids when my eczema first flared up when I was about 13 for 10 years. And then that stopped working. And at that point, I was just going to my walk-in clinic, my dermatologist, and getting prescribed more and more steroids. And then after that, I moved on to immune suppressants, something called Protopic. Used that for 3 years, stopped working, and I was just frustrated and confused. And then I had discovered TSW, topical steroid withdrawal. And I remember having a eureka moment and also my heart dropping, discovering that this was not actually helping me and not actually fixing my flares, but just masking it. And it was really scary. I remember to see all those pictures and all those stories, but I, for a little period of time, had a glimmer of hope that, oh, as long as I stop my steroids and I go through this waiting period, this TSW, my eczema is going to fix itself. And I did that for almost a year. I quit everything cold turkey, and my skin just got worse and worse and was in a horrendous state compared to what it was before. Flares that were just on my hands and my arms had now spread to my neck and my face and my torso and my legs and scalp and all over my body. And I was really discouraged. And I had even tried moisture withdrawal for a small period of time, but that was very uncomfortable. And it can be a mixed bag, hard to say whether or not it works for some and doesn't work for others, but it was very, very difficult. And I didn't keep up with that. And I just felt let down again. And I tried working with a naturopath after that time and was put on some very restrictive diets, which I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to. And Stephanie and Abby and Jen, I'm sure you guys tried countless diets yourself. I tried one called an AIP diet, autoimmune protocol, which is basically meat, vegetables, and a little bit of fruit. And I did that for a couple months. Nothing changed. Gluten-free, dairy-free for 2 years. Nothing changed. And I was just constantly feeling like I discovered what was causing me to flare, and then trying a plan, and then it didn't work, and being let down. And that was very emotionally exhausting, aside from just the physical. And I think also telling my friends that I was just trying a new thing, and all my friends knew at that time that I was going gluten-free to fix my eczema, or I was trying this to fix my eczema. And then for it to not work and to just keep coming up with new stories of what I was trying made me feel like I didn't understand my body and I didn't really know what was going on. So I just stopped telling people. And I was left not knowing what to do, feeling like I didn't understand my body, what was going on. And I was getting to a point where I almost wanted to just give up and just accept that this is how I'm going to live for the rest of my life, which is another very emotional thing to think about. And I'm sure some other people have maybe thought that this is it and this is my life now. And it's a hard truth that you think is true to accept. And in my case, it wasn't. But I had really not been able to work with someone or taken the time to truly understand what was going on inside my body. So I had gotten a game plan and I've gotten to an incredible place where I am now. But long story short, I think trying new things, being let down again, is very exhausting emotionally and very discouraging. And yeah, that would be my response to that question.
Thanks for sharing that, Timothy. I know that it definitely wasn't easy for you, and we appreciate you for being so raw and vulnerable on about your journey too, because it's never easy to feel let down and to go through that emotional roller coaster where you feel hope and then disappointment, hope and disappointment again. And if any of you are listening and you can relate to this, let me know in the chat. We have the few who's name is titled The Few on YouTube. He said, "So happy I caught this live. And we are so glad that you're here to join us as well, along with other people. And we'd love to hear your experiences for anyone listening. So yeah, feel free to put it in. And Timothy, I know that we've shared your skin before and after in the past, but you've definitely gone through a lot. And if I have time, I'll share it once again so that if people are new, you can see Timothy's skin was all red, all over his arms, his chest as well. And it was actually really severe. So I'll try to find that for you. And in the meantime, I also want to give Stephanie a chance to share as well, because we've all been on this journey before. We all know how tough it can be. And there's so many misconceptions about healing that we want to help break as well. So, Steph, what did you originally believe that eczema was?
Everyone, so I'm Steph, and I am on the team as well. I'm the client care specialist. So, and yeah, to answer your question, Abby, so because I've had eczema as a child, this is something that experienced from the age of 2. So it started off as dry skin, and that's kind of where originally my mom thought it's just a bit of dry skin, pretty common thing for as Canadians, especially because we have, go through the 4 seasons, there's typically more drier in the winter and in the fall. So for me, my mom did share that, initially she thought it was just dry skin. Now, fast forward into, my early teens, the dry skin became worse and worse to the point where we now thought it was more of just like it could possibly be genetics, okay? Because my sisters have it, my brother also has it, and my mom has it as well. And, after years of also going through the dermatologist, you're always being told that it's an external issue. So there's originally, when we go to the dermatologist, they're not asking questions as to how did it start, or why did it start as well, or why do your parents have it or your siblings have it. It's more like, this is more of genetics. This is something that you've been born with, and this is something that you're going to have to deal with, going forward. So for us, or for me specifically, eczema, what we believed was more of an external issue and possibly genetic. So, believing this for most of my life, I would say up until I was maybe about 22 or 23, I would say that was probably what I believed, because there was just not enough information out there. So for us to address it, it was more of, let's just slap on some topical steroids, or let's take an oral steroid as an example. And at some points we were also kind of investigating, but we're kind of playing around with the idea of maybe other options, like other immunosuppressants when it was available at the time. But there was never questions asked. It was always, here is the next new thing, whether it was a steroid or a protopic or immunosuppressant. It was just to kind of just band-aid the symptom. So for me, that was what eczema was for the majority of my life. That's what I believed it was.
And thanks for sharing that, Steph. I know that for you, it also wasn't an easy journey, and we all had so many beliefs at the beginning of this journey. We thought it would definitely be a lot easier than we thought, and then when we were thrown into the thick of it, it was just one of the most challenging things that we've all been through. And Steph, I don't know if you have any before and after photos to share, but what treatments or solutions did you chase early on that you found didn't work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it was tricky because believing something for so long, trying to navigate something that's completely out of what you've been taught, it was hard. So and again, during that time period, there wasn't a lot of information on social media. There wasn't a lot of information on Google, and so a lot of the times for me, I thought it was maybe just a diet shift. Okay, so growing up as my mom was a single parent with 4 young children. We didn't have in terms of food wise, it was, whatever was the quickest meals or whatever was the cheapest. So growing up, I did know that my diet wasn't the greatest. I pretty much was brought up on canned food or frozen dinners, or it would be things like, Chinese food and so on and so forth. So I would say when I was finally trying to do things in a more natural, holistic way, the first thing I did was diet. So tried to clean that up. And I did notice a few shifts. Okay. So my skin started to improve a little bit. I started to see improvements in some symptoms where I didn't feel so bloated. I was having more, regular bowel movements. And I would say that the diet shift, it did change, but it was still I was still experiencing flares. And then that's when I started to look into further things. And I did try the diets like the medical medium. And this was something that I really, really put a lot of effort into following through with, especially when I was going through TSW. And the reason for that was because, at the time, social media was saying, you have to do this specific thing, you have to eliminate all your topical steroids and this and that, and then do this diet to get better. And I think the thing is that there's a lot of misconceptions with that, just because everybody's body is very unique and different. Everybody's root causes are also very different. And what I found was that with certain diets, I did notice a shift, but things started to plateau and it got really bad again. And I didn't understand why. And as I was going through this journey, I learned that the body shifts. And whenever that body shifts, you also need to shift with that too. So, doing something for so long, it may have worked at the beginning because that's what your body needed. But, as you go through things, you also need to adjust accordingly as well. So I would say diet was a big thing that I did try. And again, I tried to do the common things like remove nightshades, remove gluten, processed sugars, and it did help. But I can say, as I started to work on the actual internal things and not just rely on just food, I can now consume these things, occasionally and not flare up anymore. So that tells me a lot as well, that my body can handle a lot more than it used to. So that was definitely one that I did chase early. And in terms of solutions, again, it was, I would say another thing was like with TSW. Again, a lot of misconceptions here where people will tell you that you have to cut things cold turkey. And I just want to share that it's not always true. And I wish that I did get support when I was going through that, just because I was on topical steroids for 25 years. And I can say that I've seen over and over again where people were able to slowly wean things off, like wean off their immunosuppressants or wean off their steroid cream safely without having to experience it with the full withdrawal symptoms that we typically do go through when people do go through TSW. And a lot of it has to do with just supporting the body. And I think that it's another solution that I did chase that, again, didn't work. And actually, if anything, it made things worse for me, where I started to get a lot of infections. I wasn't sleeping. It really deterred my mental and emotional health, and also my relationship with my family and my husband. So it doesn't just impact, a lot of misinformation can really impact us in a negative way. And I feel like some of these early solutions or treatments that I did try, again, really delayed my healing overall.
Thanks for sharing that, Steph. And yeah, I can definitely understand that. And I can see how hard it must have been as well, especially to go through so much. It's not easy. And I know Timothy shared briefly as well, but for you, what was the hardest thing about believing the wrong things for so long? And what beliefs made the journey longer and more painful as well?
Yeah, so kind of just to tie back to what I just shared earlier, just about, the TSW and the diets, and how a lot of the things that people kind of target is always food is the enemy. And I think food is really healing, especially when we do it properly. So again, it's not a one size fit all. And I would say, these things can really delay someone's healing journey overall when a lot of different information is being thrown at. And I can share that, again, what may have worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it will work for the next person. And the reasons for that is because, again, my situation, my root causes are very specific to me. So to have a more general information, I think that's something that could really delay your overall progress. So again, when it comes to whether it's diet or certain treatments or even doing certain testing, again, people sometimes, refer back to doing just food sensitivity testing, or it could be just doing a stool test. But you need to gather the whole picture. Symptoms, your health history, your environment. What are some of the things that contribute to your flares? These all need to be tailored specifically to you. And I think that's the hardest thing, is that when you believe for something for so long and you try to unlearn it that can really, I think that's the hardest thing, is unlearning things that you've been taught or things that you've learned on your own, and being open-minded. And I think that's one of the hardest things for I would say for me, when I was going through this process, again, in a more natural way, after being taught that, this is genetics, can't do anything about it, I'd be on steroid creams forever. And then having to unlearn that, be like, no, there's another way out of this. That was also a huge process of, a whole process of its own. So
Thanks for sharing that, Steph. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you've definitely gone through a lot and, suffered a lot as well. And even had so many times where I know you've shared in previous uh, of the lives that we've done, that you also, went through so much that your body had felt disabled, kind of similar to what I went through. And so I know that you also get it and understand how tough it is. And I know we never really planned this next part, but later on, I'll get Stephanie and Timothy to also share some of the things that what finally clicked that changed everything, and then what they would share about how to get to the root cause, and also what to say to anyone who's still stuck chasing surface fixes, because I really think that that'll help all of you who are listening as well. And in the meantime, I also wanted to quickly share Jen's story and let Jen share as well, because Jen has been through so much. If you haven't heard her podcast in the past, she also went through she, she went through beating cancer twice and chemo as well, and her body has been so resilient, especially while battling the severe eczema. And she's just such a warrior and a trooper. And there's just so many things to your story that I know can help people. But in the meantime, what would you go back and tell your younger self if you were starting off? And if I were to rephrase it, what advice would have saved you years of trial and error?
Mhm. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer. I'm part of the Eczema Conquerors team. So happy to be here. And yeah, definitely check out the podcast if you can. I give more detailed explanation of my story. But I'll answer the question first and then kind of give some background on myself. To go back to my younger self, first off, I would give my younger self a hug and just talk to my younger self and tell her that it's okay. I mean, when I was younger and dealing with eczema flares, it didn't seem so bad because the steroids was just suppressing things. So it's like it didn't present itself so terribly because it was under control, with the steroid creams. I was actually using them from 10 months to 26 years. And from that time, they just got like more and more potent, as a lot of people's stories is probably similar. It got to a point where I was in college around 19, 20, and I found someone basically on the train who saw my skin and said, "Oh, you should check out this doctor. And he can help you with your skin." And I went up there, and his advice was giving steroid injections into my hands and my feet because those were the worst at the time. And I did that for a while. I don't know how many times I did it, but it cleared it up super fast, and it was what I wanted. I wanted to see that healing in a sense. And I think because of that, I had the worst withdrawal on my hands and my feet, especially my feet and my legs. But if I could go back to that child, I would tell her, it's okay, and to find a way to get off of these steroids. I mean, earlier than later, because just the progression of using them and then going through the horrific topical steroid withdrawal, it was something that I don't wish on anyone. It's super painful. And I wish that the information was out there back then. I mean, this was the 90s, and, I'd give my parents grace all the time because they feel so terrible about, getting these creams and putting them on me and not knowing any better. I think that's something that we should all, tell our parents too, just to give them that grace, because that's what the information was. So yeah, I would tell my younger self to wean off the steroids, because I went off cold turkey as well, and the withdrawal process was horrific. Knowing now, I would have weaned off of them. and just clean up my diet, less processed foods, do testing, see what deficiencies I may have had, whatever else was going on internally, and just go from there. Like I felt like if I could have gotten off them a lot, younger, maybe I wouldn't have spiraled into different health issues that I've had later on. In my podcast, you'll hear I did experience cancer twice. It came in 2008. It was Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then again in 2020. And just working with the Conquerors team, I learned a lot of different things about what was going on internally that could help me heal my skin and like my overall health. But yeah, just going back and just telling her, like I said, just giving her a hug, letting her know that life is going to be okay and that there are better ways to help your skin besides using steroids. I was also on antihistamines. It got to a point where I was using so many a night just to get some sleep. And then the mornings I would feel so drowsy and as like I couldn't function at school. And that was just a normal for me. And I kind of just took it like, well, this is just what it is, and just kind of dealt with it. So yeah, definitely go back and give myself grace and tell myself more about natural remedies, natural healing, to help me heal my skin.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
And Jen's right. If any of you want to listen to your podcast in more detail and take a deeper dive, just head to my podcast, the Eczema podcast, which you can find on any podcast players, and you can just see Jen's story. It's one of the most recent ones that was posted in the last few weeks, so you can check that out. And Jen, for you, what finally clicked that changed everything for you?
Yeah, definitely. I was doing a lot of kind of like doing it myself for a while. When I did the topical steroid withdrawal, that was at 26 years old. So that was 2012. And it was terrible. It was so bad. My skin looked like I like to say it looked like a flesh-eating disease, like how bad my feet were, like huge chunks oozing like crazy. Um, and it was weird. It was like I flared terrible during the spring and summer months, and then during the fall and winter, it was calm. So I could function more, I could do more, but then every time spring and summer would come back, I would flare again. But at least it wasn't like as bad. Um, but yeah, it was bad during then. And I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What finally clicked that changed
Yes.
everything for you?
Yeah, what finally clicked was that when I started working with Eczema Conquerors, just working internally. Because I know like a lot of people would probably just think that it's a topical thing, or like with TSW, with time, it'll kind of pass. And so I was doing diet things which helped, and some supplementation which helped, and just the time itself, it helped a bit. But really working with Eczema Conquerors, they were able to pinpoint more internal things that was wrong with me, root causes, and doing testing and whatnot, and getting my circulation better, and lymph congestion, like so many different things that I didn't know, that I didn't even think about, that helped just getting your detox pathways opened. So working on the internal helped to heal the external. And that's what it was. It was just really, that's what clicked for me, was learning about the things that I didn't notice, no doctors ever told me about. For some reason, just going to the dermatologist, it was always just topicals, topicals. I never did any kind of testing. And when I learned these things through Eczema Conquerors, I was just like, why didn't any of these dermatologists ever ask about these things? And so there was a bit of anger there with that. But yeah, that's what clicked the most, was just really honing in on the internal problems and working on that, and then seeing your skin heal. It may be a slow process, but you got to give yourself grace, got to give your body grace, because the internal has like been hit with so much toxicity, congestion, whatever. And so as that slowly heals, your skin will heal. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Jen. And it can be normal to feel that anger as well. And I know many of us have felt it as well. If you're listening and you've also experienced this, just type in the comments, me too, so that we know that if you've been through this before too. But it's normal to feel like you were let down during the process and that you wish things were different. And I know for myself that was the case. But I also want to move on to Timothy right now, just to give him a chance to also share as well about what finally clicked that changed everything for you, Timothy. Because I know that you had gone through a lot, and earlier I shared that I was going to share your photos. So yeah, I'll just quickly share a quick screen share while you're talking. But yeah, what finally clicked the most for you?
Yeah, and thank you. Sorry for the photo on the screen, but that's where my skin was before. And yeah, incredible stories shared by Stephanie and Jen. And like I was sharing a bit in my first response, I was just throwing so much effort at trying to figure this all out on my own. Like, I remember even just trying a parasite cleanse because I read something about grinding teeth and my jaw felt a little sore. I was just ready to try anything. And supplements and herbs. I was taking vitamin D, C, zinc, random probiotics, boosting herbs. And, these things are good in theory, but I was honestly just throwing things at the wall, hoping something would stick. And I think or maybe the biggest thing that clicked for me was that it was not a question of more effort, but of more clarity. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't have someone to ask me the proper questions to help me understand what was going on. I had been dealing with a raging staph infection, which I thought was TSW because you hear about oozing and crusting with TSW. And I was just waiting it out, like Jen mentioned too, just waiting it out, hoping that time would fix it and time would heal. And that's not going to happen with something like a severe staph infection, which was all over my hands, all up my arms. And working with Eczema Conquerors really helped me work with someone who could ask me the right questions, because I had worked with a naturopath before and I had gone to see the dermatologists and the doctors, but someone who was able to look at my skin and say, that is a staph infection. And yes, you may be experiencing TSW, but TSW can make way for something like a severe infection to come about, especially if we're breaking open our skin, because that staph is there on the skin, but once it gets in, it gets out of control. And more clarity, honestly, and a game plan, because I was trying so many different things. And if I was just given a laid out plan, I would be able to follow it to a T, but I didn't know what that was. And I just felt a lot of peace of mind and a lot of clarity finally having a game plan and being able to work with someone who was able to come up with a personalized game plan too, because a lot of these different root causes are very true for different people, whether it's fungal, bacterial, detox organs, TSW, your lymphatic system needs help, or a mixture of all, but it's also personalized. So like the parasite cleanse that I was trying, or random probiotics, random supplements and vitamins, these things are all good and they might work for someone else, but I wasn't working with anyone who was able to tell me what was really going on. And trying something that works for someone else didn't work for me. And again, back to my initial response, time and time again, I was being let down and discouraged, because why is this working for someone else and it's not working for me? The answer to that was that I needed someone to look at my personal body and what was going on inside my body to really understand what I needed personally. So less effort, less just going full throttle and trying so many different things, and more clarity and understanding and realizing things like the staph infection and the little bit of TSW that I was experiencing, and some other areas that I also had as far as root causes, but just more clarity on understanding what was going on uniquely with me.
Thanks for sharing that, Timothy. That's such a big part of the journey that really give you enlightenment about what can really help. And for those of you who are listening, just type in the chat if you're able to, because we'd love to know what stage are you at. What treatments have you tried so far? Have you are you just starting out, or have you mainly tried the topicals, or are you currently on medications, or have you already gone down the root cause approach to really dig deeper? Because we'd love to know how we can support you as well. And I also want to add that if you're ever in need of any support or guidance, you can book a complimentary breakthrough call with our team as well. Stephanie and Timothy are part of the group, and one other person, Katie, she's not here right now, but she's also gone through the same thing too. So if any of you ever want to chat with them and hear more about their personal stories, and also have them share more about what could be missing in your healing journey and how you can get to where they are now, you're welcome to book a complimentary breakthrough call, and they'd love to chat with you and support you as well. So the link is in the description, but I'll put it in the chat as well so that all of you have it. And Timothy, is there anything that you want to add as well?
Oh, I don't want to steal it, but I liked what Jen said. Just give that younger Tim a hug and let him know it's not a question of effort and it's okay to reach out for support. And yeah, not everybody's case is the same, and eczema is not the same across the board. I just remember with eczema thinking everybody's case was the same. And then again with TSW, is very real, and it is something I experienced, and I know Jen and Stephanie and Abby all experienced it too, but it's not always the entire picture. So just going back to that moment when I discovered, honestly, the TSW forums all over Facebook and all of that, that was quite a traumatic experience, and also a moment where I felt like I had found hope and finally understood that I just got to wait this out and stop steroids, to meet with myself at that time and let me know that it's not just a waiting game, and I don't have to just wait it out and suffer and quit cold turkey, like Stephanie mentioned too. Like, there are better ways to go about this.
For sure. Thank you, Timothy. And we have someone who said that they're in week 4 of TSW. I know that that's never easy, and that's the early stages as well. If you ever need support, just let us know, and you're welcome to book a complimentary breakthrough call, and we'd love to support you. But if you find that you're already you already have someone to work with, then that's great as well, because it's great that you're getting support in other ways. I noticed my link just got cut off in the chat, so let me re-add that in separately. But Steph, how about for you? What was the moment that finally clicked that changed everything for you?
Yeah, I would say kind of similar to Jen and Timothy's story. When I finally met with a practitioner, actually was on EC at the time, because I've worked with also naturopaths in Canada, and a lot of the times it was always food based. Let's clean up your diet, let's do more green smoothies, and let's take some vitamin D because you're in Toronto, so you're vitamin D deficient in certain months. What really clicked was when I finally met the right practitioner, and they asked a lot of questions about just my symptoms, like what kind of symptoms we're experiencing. Asked a lot of questions about my childhood, and I was like, why is this relevant to what's happening with my skin? And when they finally was able to kind of tie certain symptoms with why I was experiencing these flares or when my flares would peak, it really made a lot of sense. And I think to me, understanding what my body was trying to tell me, like that's what really clicked. I'm like, okay, this person knows what they're doing. It wasn't like, and even like, again, sometimes even like asking me questions like, where would I notice my flare ups, or, was I itching in certain areas? That also told me a lot about as to what was happening internally. And again, I didn't understand like what the correlation was, but understanding and them asking me these questions and explaining it to me, breaking it down, that's what really clicked. And I knew that I was on the right path. So again, I feel like a lot of people will say, it's normal to feel tired, especially for females. You have your menstrual cycles and da 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 da. So it's normal for females to be tired or lethargic or might have brain fog, but actually it's a way of our body telling us that there could be a deficiency there, or maybe something else that's off balance in our body. And whenever we experience other symptoms, that ties to our flares. So again, understanding that, and I think that's what really clicked in. Again, like I shared, really clicked and told me that I was on the right path to help address not only my flare-ups, but other things, other health concerns that I was also experiencing too. Abby, I think you're muted.
I was muted. So for those who are listening, you'll notice a common surface level solutions. And then over time, they really started to dig deeper and deeper. And one thing that really helps is really finding someone who specializes in the area. It doesn't always have to be us, but if you have someone who really specializes in it, it can really help. And that's why Jen, Timothy, and Stephanie, who all after working with our practitioners in our Eczema Conquerors program, really found a lot of breakthrough and healing, especially after going through this for years and years. And so it's not easy, but healing is possible. So I just want to remind you all of that it can happen. And even for myself, I went through so much suffering and just a lot of questioning about why is this happening. But I realized that it really led me into the path of just searching for something deeper. And not all practitioners are able to unpack your unique eczema story this way, because you are unique and you are so bio individual. And so you also deserve to have someone who can really work with you to understand your symptoms and really know your health history from start to finish, and then fill in those missing gaps for you so that you can have your eczema story unpacked and have a personalized plan for you. And so, yeah, once again, if any of you ever need support, you're welcome to book a complimentary breakthrough call in the link in the description or chat, and we'd love to support you. And for Jen, I would love for you to talk more about what you would share with someone who is still looking for surface level fixes, and what's the truth that you wish everyone with eczema would know?
Hmm. Um, yeah, surface level fixes, like, I think that's the thing, right? We think it's dry skin, we think, oh, it's just eczema, and there's so many products out there that are geared towards topical treatments. And so that's what we automatically go for. I mean, even with the doctors, that's what they automatically give us. I would tell them to look beyond the surface, know that, your skin is your largest organ. You have other organs inside of you. And if the other organs are not working correctly, the burden is going to lie on the skin. And so you need to work internally and focus on what's going on in there before just focus on the outside. I mean, putting topicals on, yes, that's helpful, but you can put topicals on forever. If you don't work on the inside, then you'll finally start to see some results by cleaning up what's going on internally.
Yeah, and that's really helpful because that is the biggest part. I once had this practitioner who told me, whenever you treat something externally, you will forever be treating it eternally. And what it means is basically that whenever you're just relying on things topically, that it will always just be reaching the surface level and only acting as a band-aid. But we want to work deeper and get to the bottom of it so that we can create the longest lasting change.
Exactly. And also too, like some creams, and like everyone is unique, but also like some creams may help some people and some creams may not help other people. And then it's like, well, why are you reacting to something that should be helping you, that's, eczema related? And it's probably because internally you still need to do some work. So yeah, definitely go beyond the topical, go beyond what you see on the outside and look inside. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so right. That's so right. And yeah, how about you, Stephanie? What would you say to someone who's still chasing surface level fixes, or what? Yeah, what's the truth that you wish everyone with eczema would know, or either anything that you want to add to it?
Honestly, it's just more of I can share that even with the topicals, like these things are also whether it's internal or topicals, however you want to treat this, everything is customized. Even with the topicals, like I know from experience, I've also similar to Jen and to Timothy and also to you, Abby, where staph infections, right? Again, when there's a lot of misinformation and or if you're treating it incorrectly, applying the wrong topicals can actually make it spread further and make it worse, right? So we understand that sometimes not everyone can go beyond the external, maybe due to financial reasons where, it's just not financially feasible for some people. But again, when you get to a point where you are just treating externally, you're forever treating the symptom, like you shared, Abby. And I think ultimately, if you can identify what's causing it, whether it be internal things, okay, now internal things can mean a number of things. It can mean trauma. It can mean you have imbalances, deficiencies, toxicity overload. It could be literally anything. Identifying those is what's going to give you the long-term results that all of us have been looking for at some point. And again, from speaking from experience, where I did treat it externally for over 25 years with just topicals, and then again using more natural topicals when I was going through TSW, I can share that those definitely, what it wasn't enough. It was never enough. It even sometimes it would actually make the situation worse for me, where I would apply the topicals and it made me even itchier to like by the hour. So again, when it comes to anything, whether it be internal treatments, external treatments, everything needs to be really customized. And I think and I know we're all doing our best. So I'd say whatever your best is, make sure that it is specifically tailored to your needs.
For sure. And I'm going to bring up a photo of Stephanie's before and after photos so that you guys can see what she went through. But while I'm doing that, does anyone have any questions for our team while you're listening? Or does anyone want to share what your biggest challenges and obstacles are so that we can also see how we can support you in that too? Because I know that it's so common for many of us to have many questions while we're going through it. And so, yeah, I just want to share this with you. This is Stephanie's before and afters. You can see that she's gone through so much with her skin, and it definitely wasn't easy. And but you can see how drastic the change was, especially when she went through eczema and topical steroid withdrawal as well. So feel free to keep those questions coming, because we do want to see how we can support you all and help you all address it too. I'm also going to quickly share one of Jen's photos too, so that you can have an idea of what she went through. And apologies if any of these photos are graphic. You can feel free to look away for a bit in case that helps. But here's a photo of Jen's, what Jen went through. And Jen went through constant skin infections and infections on her foot, to the point where there were many times she couldn't leave the house and it was really difficult to walk. And so so many of us have gone through times where the skin flares really affected us severely.
Yeah, it was so awful. I mean, and that's staph infection. That staph infection, you can see that there's some blood there too. And just working with the team, just, killing off that staph, balancing deficiencies. It's pretty amazing. Like the pain of not being able to walk. Like now I can put on socks and shoes and like run if I wanted to. Like it's amazing when you find healing and you appreciate the things that you didn't have before. So healing is definitely possible. Everyone who's listening, like don't give up on your healing.
For sure, it's such a big part of the journey, and everyone here has gone through so much. And so, yeah, I think that's about it. I'll just quickly leave a few more minutes in case anyone wants to share any of your biggest obstacles, challenges, or questions before we head off. But yeah, this was such a helpful chat to hear each of you share your stories. And many of you may not always see Stephanie, Timothy, or Jennifer. Just uh, you may not always see them uh, in the front facing, but they do so much work behind the scenes and they help so many people as well. We have one person who asked, in addition to your naturopath and being in the program, do you also work closely with your own allergist? So for myself, the allergies didn't actually make a big difference. Many of our clients have gone to see an allergist at the same time, but sometimes it comes back negative for a lot of times. I know for me, when I was in my worst flares, especially when I was in kind of what the photos you saw previously, a lot of those times, even when my skin was very broken and I was 95% covered in rashes, when I would go to the allergist, it would still show that I was not reactive or allergic to anything. So I don't work closely with them. However, if you find that you personally are, you find that there's any allergies, it's definitely helpful to still check with them and see how things change over time, especially if, let's say, perhaps your gut starts to feel better or your skin starts to feel better as well and you're not reacting to things as much. You can definitely check with them and check on those allergies as well. Is that something that you're currently finding, or are you already working with your allergist, or do you find that there's any allergies? Because that would also be helpful to know as well. And I'm not sure if anyone here has anything that you guys want to add, but for anyone else listening, feel free to enter your questions and any obstacles or challenges that you've gone through or that you want to ask us about. Yeah. Steph, Timothy, or Jen, did you want to add anything?
I could
Yeah,
just.
you go ahead, Timothy.
I'm not currently working with an allergist, and I didn't when I was working with one of the practitioners at Eczema Conquerors, but I did go through and I did an IgG sensitivity test, and I didn't find it personally helpful. Although I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword because sometimes removing certain foods can help some people and then it doesn't help others. So again, it really depends on your unique situation, but I did not work with an allergist as I was going through to address my root causes.
Yeah, Stephanie, were you going to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to just share too as well that I didn't work with an allergist while I was working with EC at the time, but I was working when I was working with a naturopath. We did do multiple food sensitivity and environmental sensitivity testing as well. And I can share that it actually caused a lot more stressors because there was a lot of things that were showing up on my test results to the point where I was limited to maybe, I think it was like 3 different fruits and like 4 different vegetables and like 1 different protein. So limiting those foods, not only did it cause more stress, which then impacted my flares, but I also felt like I was deficient in so many things too. So from my personal experience with that, I didn't actually, when I was working with EC, we didn't solely rely on just allergy. We actually didn't rely on allergy testing at all. And I did notice that as I started to work on those root issues, my food sensitivities reversed, and I can now pretty much consume everything. So again, we want to just remember that food is not the enemy, especially when it comes to really, whole foods in general. We want to keep things and open-minded, but we understand, again, when we want to try to reduce some of the current flare-ups, it could be helpful to identify what those triggers could be. But when you have like test results like myself, where I was limited to maybe 10 different foods on a day-to-day basis, how that could really really deter your relationship with food in general as well. So hopefully, if you do end up doing that, it could be very helpful in helping you identify some of those current triggers. But as a long-term guideline, I wouldn't recommend it to use that as a long-term guide, essentially.
And just to add on to that, unless you do have some allergies or severe allergies that need monitoring, it can be helpful in those cases. But we've just found that if there are no allergies present, then it hasn't been as helpful, because we found that diet, or in some cases, even sensitivities, are more of a reaction. And once we get to the root cause, we find that a lot of those sensitivities will calm down. And sometimes, in some cases, allergies may as well, depending on the severity of it. But hopefully that was helpful. And I appreciate every one of you for joining today and just listening in. And once again, if any of you need more support, just remember that we're here for you and our team are here for you. We've all gone through it before, and we know what it's like, and we know how tough it is to go through the flares and to feel like it's never ending, and to really wonder if there's hope sometimes. And so just know that each of you, you're not alone. And if you do need any support, just remember that you're welcome to book a complimentary breakthrough call with our team. And they'd love to hear your story, hear what you've gone through, and really support you and really guide you to how you can feel better and just be able to get some relief as well. So I hope this talk was helpful today. Does anyone have any last things to add before we close off today?
Just believe in your healing, believe in your body, believe in your body, and that it can heal, that it can repair itself, and look deeper. Just look deeper besides the surface, and get those practitioners and the experts that can really guide you and walk with you through this process. You don't want to do it alone. You don't want to. It's more helpful when you have people there to help you out who are experts in the field and who've been through it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, we look forward to either talking to you guys either on a call or maybe on social media through Instagram. I'm at Eczema Conquerors, and I'd always love to chat with you there as well. Take care, everyone, and we hope you all have a great day. Bye.